Hello and welcome back to Module 2, Video B. We'll now be going over scatter plots in Matplotlib. So there's actually two functions you can use to do scatter plots in Matplotlib. First of all, you can use the basic plot function, which was what we'll look at first, and then we'll look at using the actual scatter plot function. So the data set we're working with is our weather data set. And what I want to look at in this scatter plot is the difference between the temperature and the apparent temperature. These values are measured each day at noon, and I want to see what the difference is and if there's any trend throughout the year. So scrolling back down here, we're going to, first of all, we need to create some data which is that difference. So going to create a list here called tempdiff, and you can see I'm taking the difference between the temperature and the apparent temperature, and I'm just selecting for both of them the first 365 years, so we're just looking at that very first year of data. Now to actually initiate the graph, going to go ahead and just use that basic plt.plot function. However, this time to specify a scatter plot instead of the default line plot, we're going to add this right here. And what that says is the R says that we want red and the O says that we want dots. So now instead of plotting a line, it's going to plot some dots, and we can see if we just do that, don't add any titles or anything, we get a bunch of red dots, whereas if I go and change this to a dash, it goes back to a line plot. We're going to go and add in some more axis titles. These are just copied over from the previous video, so let's see right here, add in our additional elements. Okay, and there we go. We can now visualize the difference between the measured and apparent temperatures. Fortunately, we don't really have much of a trend here, so this wasn't very informative, but it is a very nice scatter plot. Now we want to look at recreating this same plot except using the plt.scatter function. So gonna start, a lot of it's gonna be similar, so I'll actually just start by copying and pasting this in. We've already defined that though, so don't need to define that again. So right here, we're going to initiate it. We're gonna go plt.scatter this time. And then as before, we need to give it an X and a Y values. For my X values, this is just another option. Instead of using the index values, I'm actually just going to use a range. So I'm going to say range 365. That will give me 365 integers from 0 up to 364. And then I'm going to use that tempdiff. And so if I do just that, go ahead, and now I have pretty much the same scatter plot. The plt.scatter defaults to blue, so that's what this is, although we could go through and change that, as we'll see in the next one. Just a quick note here, with plt.plot, you can exclude the X information. As you see here with plt.scatter, that does not work. So you will want to make sure to get in your X information. Let's see, just a few different things we can look at here. Now instead of looking at the difference between measured and apparent temperature over time, I want to know if there is a correlation between that temperature difference and the wind speed. As the wind gets higher, is that apparent temperature, is that changing? So that's what we'll do right here. You can see we're again using plt.scatter. For our X variable is now the wind speed. We're selecting that. Our y variable is temperature difference, and then I'm also mixing up the color and the marker just a little bit. This is specified a bit different than it was in the plt.plot. Instead of being one string, it's two strings, so you just say color and then you can give it a color, and then you can give it a variety of markers. So this little caret is going to give, I believe, a triangle. So there we go. And you can also see that I added in some axis labels here. So we have the wind speed and we have the difference in degrees between our measured and apparent temperature. And, a lot of the points are sitting right there at 0, but you can see that there is somewhat of a positive correlation, that the higher the wind speed, the bigger the temperature difference. So that is scatter plots in Matplotlib. Very useful, very easy. Hope you enjoyed.